Call me Ahab, what? Monomaniac, obsessed with success unlike Steve Wozniak.
On the hunt for this mammal that once took my leg, with my worn down crew and my man Queequeg. You're never gonna find him. He's a big sperm whale. The ocean is enormous. Shut up, we're setting sail. This scar that you see that runs down my face has scarred my soul and inspired this chase. Mental sickness has got me on the run. Full speed ahead, this is American fun. There is wisdom that is woe, so welcome to my life. It was fine until Moby scarred me like a knife. Towards thee I sail, that unconquering whale, to stab my spear into your white tail. The first one to spot him gets his gold doubloon. Now excuse me while I go be melancholy in my room.
Welcome to Book Time with Ryan. I'm Ryan, and today I'll be talking about Ahab's wife, or the Stargazer. I don't know how to say the author's first name, but it's either Sena or Sena, or Naslund. This book was recommended to me by women in our book group at church, and I really am happy that they recommended it. And I'll tell you why. But before I do, the song at the beginning of this video is from MC Lars. MC Lars' song Ahab is about Ahab from Moby-Dick. I actually reached out to MC Lars after I heard this song and asked him if he had read the book, if he was basing it off of the books, like really how he came up with the song. Because when you listen to the song, and I'll have more of the song at the end of this video for the outro, when you listen to the song, there's a lot of specific stuff in there, much more specific stuff than you would get from somebody who's just reading Spark Notes or has a passing knowledge about Moby-Dick. And MC Lars told me at some point he had a unit, I guess, about Moby-Dick, and he wrote the song while he was studying Moby-Dick. When you listen to it and listen to more at the end, you'll if you know Moby-Dick, you'll get all these references that are pretty deep, which I love. I was like, what kind of guy is writing a song about Moby-Dick that I can find online? And somebody who really has a appreciation for Moby-Dick. And MC Lars went to Stanford for undergrad, I believe, and then got his master's at Oxford. So pretty impressive pedigree there. But about the book. This book is about Ahab's wife. Her name is Una. In Moby-Dick, there's only a passing reference to Ahab's wife and child. This book really takes off from there, before Ahab and after Ahab. And this is not a book that I would pick for myself. I think it's a romance. I'm not sure if it's chick lit. I don't know. I don't really know how it's categorized. It's fictional. It's not a book I would pick for myself. And there are certainly parts of the book that I felt were a little slow. Some of the kind of the lovey-dovey, does he love me, does he not, what do I think of boys, that kind of thing that I would not gravitate towards. But there was so much overlap with Moby-Dick, and there were so many characters and situations and places and events that overlap with Moby-Dick that it was so exciting to read. I gave it 5 stars. There are moments while you're reading it where you're just like, I think this is going to happen because I'm aware of Moby-Dick, and then it does. And it's exciting to realize that these two books happen in the same universe. Although Naslund wrote this book so you could read it independently of having read Moby-Dick. You should be able to read it, and it's not like you're going to lose anything. But having an appreciation for both books and having an appreciation for other history of the time is, I think, made it a much better read for me. Because I've read Moby-Dick. I've read 2 books about the whale ship Essex. And in this book, I'll go over what happens in this book. So Una is a girl who I think we see at 12. She's 12 and she's in Kentucky. And she has a very loving mother and a loving father, but a religious father who's tough on her. And it becomes clear that she is rebelling against that religious fervor that her dad has. And her mom sends her off to her aunt. Her aunt lives on an island with her husband and daughter somewhere off of New England. I would guess kind of near Connecticut or Rhode Island, maybe Massachusetts, but they run a lighthouse for the U.S. government. But it's very isolated. So she goes there and stays there for 4 years and really falls in love with her family, who she had only heard of. I'm not sure if she had met them before. Eventually she gets not stir crazy, but she wants to get off the island. She wants to see the world. And these 2 guys came to put in a Fresnel lens into the lighthouse. The lighthouse picture in the thumbnail is a Fresnel lens. She really likes both of these guys and she wants to see them. So she goes to New Bedford and she's supposed to see them, but she gets antsy. Her mom's going to meet her there, but it turns out her mom was delayed Her father killed himself, and she's got to stay back home. She's also pregnant. She's just worried about traveling with a baby. Una decides that she's going to cut her hair and stow away on the ship as a boy and become a cabin boy for a whale ship called the Sussex, the sister ship of the Essex. Now, this is one of the things I had a little bit of confusion about. The timeline, I would think when we meet the Sussex, the Essex has already sunk. The Essex sunk in 1821. I don't know exactly when this is going on, but we see the Essex in port or kind of underway while Una is checking out the Sussex. And I don't know if that's just another Essex or what. I think the Essex was out of Nantucket and they were leaving New Bedford. So I don't know. But that was one thing that confused me. She disguised herself on the ship so she can be close to these two guys, Giles and Kit. Giles is this deep thinker. Kit is a little more rash, but she likes him, and he's a little more, I don't want to say aggressive, but forward. And eventually they discover that she's there, and then they are hunting whales, and a whale stoves in the Sussex. 3 whaleboats take the crew that's surviving, and they head towards South America, which reminds me of the Essex story. The whaleboat that Una and Kit and Giles are in is retrieved by a passing ship, although everyone's dead except for the 3 of them. The captain was in that ship, his son was in that ship. Everyone else was killed and eaten, or died and was eaten. And that's something that they didn't want people to know about. And then they went on the Albatross, which was, I believe, a merchant ship. And there, Kit goes crazy. Kit goes mad. Giles and Kit had some kind of falling out before Una caught up with them on the ship. They both like her, but they also have some kind of weird sexual thing going on between them. Giles kills himself, probably, or slips, but he probably killed himself. And Kit goes mad. But Una still loves Kit. They're transferred over to the Pequod, which is the ship that Ahab is the captain of. The Pequod takes them back to Nantucket. Captain Ahab marries them, and Kit falls further into madness, and it doesn't get any better. Eventually, Kit goes completely crazy. When they're back in Nantucket, he pees on Una in public. He's arrested. He's going to go to the madhouse, and he escapes and heads west, and essentially the marriage is dissolved, and Una marries Ahab. Ahab is her second husband. You really follow Una's progress from that traumatic event on the Sussex through becoming a wife of a madman to really discovering how much she loved Ahab, and she had special feelings for Ahab the first time she saw him, and Ahab really liked her too. And you really, in this book, you see a very different side of Ahab. Now, we knew that Ahab was not always driven with revenge and rage. We know that his crews in the past really liked him, that he was considered a great captain. We know that he loves his wife and his son, just from really near the climax of Moby-Dick. We know all that. But in this book, you see the interaction he has with Una, his wife, Una Spencer. And you get a very different feel because a lot of that was hidden from the crew because he was private with the crew. You never really saw that in Moby-Dick, but you see it here. Other themes that you see in this book, you see a lot more suffrage movement and the abolitionist movement. And it's a different taste because when Moby-Dick was written, and Moby-Dick was finished in 1850 and published in 1851, we hadn't had the Civil War yet. And we didn't know that women were going to get the vote. And there was still slavery. And there was growing concern that there was going to be a civil war. There was going to be a split between the North and the South. But it hadn't happened yet. But there was definitely a division in the country between the part of the country that was anti-slavery and part of the country that supported slavery. And even parts of the country that were against slavery but also didn't want to get involved. Ahab's Wife was written in 1999. So obviously the author knows what has happened, knows that eventually there is a civil war, that there's an end to slavery, the women get the right to vote. You see more of that playing out in this. I thought it was a nice book. It's interesting for me to read a book that was written around Moby-Dick, very much around Moby-Dick, without identifying what I remember from Moby-Dick from this book. The development in this book would inform me how characters were created in Moby-Dick, but not really, right? Because they were written 150 years before. It's an interesting look because you want to think chronologically, but this book was written a century and a half later, and while it builds on the book Moby-Dick and the characters from Moby-Dick, so many characters from Moby-Dick, locations, events, even gams between different ships, it builds on all that, but this was written with hindsight in U.S. history and also an understanding for how Moby-Dick was received and some of the themes that were really kind of sussed out from Moby-Dick. I thought it was great. I think if you're going to read Ahab's Wife, it's great to have read Moby-Dick. It's nice to have read Nathaniel Philbrick's book about the whale ship Essex, In the Heart of the Sea, and so the tragic wreck of the whale ship Essex by the first mate. I really liked this. It was a different taste. It took me a while to get used to the flow and the pace of the book, but once I was there, I was hooked. And by the end, there were moments that I was waiting to see happen that happened in Moby-Dick that I'm just, you kind of wait for it to happen. I think it would have been like people who read Game of Thrones and then they're watching the show and they're like, oh, the Red Wedding's coming, and nobody else knows it. So I felt like that. I was waiting for certain events to happen in this book that I knew had happened in Moby-Dick. The other difference is Moby-Dick is Ishmael shows up in this book, by the way. Moby-Dick is done through the point of view of Ishmael. This book is mostly done through Una's point of view, but there are a few parts of this book that take on other points of view. Not sure how the author could have gotten around that. I don't know if it would have been possible to provide the story that she provided without having different points of view from characters that were not Una. So I will forgive it. We didn't lose anything from it. It was just one of the little differences. There are also illustrations in this book, and I don't know if these illustrations are done to look like the illustrations that are in my really good copy of Moby-Dick. I don't know, but they're nice. They're nice illustrations on their own. So I gave us 5 stars. I think it's a great thing that really builds on Moby-Dick. There are some characters that you will not like. There are a lot of characters that you'll appreciate knowing more about, even though Herman Melville didn't write it. But I think she does them justice, and generally it's in the right direction that I think Melville would have liked. There's even a moment where I'm wondering if we saw Melville, because we saw Hawthorne and we saw Emerson, and we know that Melville hung out with Nathaniel Hawthorne for a while in Massachusetts. So I don't know if there was going to be this overlap between real life Herman Melville running into a character from a book about a book that was written by a character he created, Ishmael. I don't know. But I like to think that's maybe what happened. This is one of the final remaining books related to Moby-Dick that I'm aware of. I read Ahab's Return, which is loosely related to Moby-Dick, but this was definitely grounded more in the Moby-Dick story and the events of Moby-Dick and the character. I think there's a book that is by Ray Bradbury that's about the making of the 1956 Moby-Dick movie with Gregory Peck, which was awesome, the best one. And there is one book that I know of called Mocha-Dick, which is about the real whale that some of Moby-Dick is based off of. I will read both of those at some point. As far as Ahab's Wife goes, it was great to read. It was definitely a different taste for me. The coming of age story for a young girl. There's a lot of violence. There's not a lot of violence. There's a lot of, this is 1830s to 1850s, 60s. It's a tough time to be alive. People lose their kids. People lose their family members. There are accidents all over the place, and you see a lot of that. So when you read this, if there are characters that you start to like, realized they could die. Their children could die, their babies could die, their parents could die, relatives could die, friends. It's amazing. There are, I'm sure, a number of things that would trigger people in here. There's at least a couple of rape scenes, not all with our main character, but with different characters. There's suicide, there's slavery, there's some racism, there's obviously some carnage with killing whales. There's a couple murders. There's a lot here, but it's, I mean, we're looking at kind of the early American frontier life and coastal living life in a very hostile environment. So that's kind of what you get, and I don't think the author shies away from that. I liked Ahab's wife. I thought she was good for him. I thought he was good for her. I thought they were a great couple. I hated Kit. I didn't really like Giles in the end. There are a lot of other characters that I really liked in this. A guy named David, who's a dwarf. Her cousin Franny, a judge that lives across the street. Just there are a number of characters that you're really going to like in here. It does kind of have a romance feel to it, so it's not a bloody action-packed book, but there are some action pieces of it, and I think it's well researched. So check it out. If you've read Moby-Dick, I highly recommend Ahab's Wife. If you haven't read Moby-Dick and you like romance novels, you like historic fiction, you like mid-1800 United States fictional stories, then this is probably a great book for you. If you like Moby-Dick, I think this is a really fun book to read, but it takes a long time. Like I said, there's 666 pages of story in here, plus 2 pages of acknowledgments, and then there's probably another 16 pages of additional materials that they do, the little PS thing in the corner of the page. They have the Harper Perennial Insight stuff. Again, thank you to the ladies in the book group at church for recommending this to me. Really appreciate that. Thank you to MC Lars for writing the song Ahab, performing it, and I think being positive about me using it. So if this ever is monetized, I think the rights to the monetization go to you, MC Lars. I am still loving Moby-Dick. I'm still enjoying kind of the related books. If you look at the thumbnail at the end, the dress that female Ryan is wearing, and I'm Una in that, is blue, and it's actually in the book she's wearing a navy blue dress too. I didn't plan on that. The Ahab picture, which is me on Gregory Peck's body from the 1956 movie, I've used that in the other reviews or vlog related to Moby-Dick. But the new lady, Ahab's wife, Una, she's wearing a blue dress, and that's what she does in the book, and that was just a nice coincidence in front of a lighthouse with a Fresnel lens. If you look at the thumbnail out in the distance, you'll see Pequod. That is the Pequod that was used in the 1956 movie Moby-Dick. So thanks for being here today. I hope you enjoy this. Check it out. Also, if you haven't read Moby-Dick, please read Moby-Dick. It is an American classic. It is amazing. It really is one of my favorite books, and it's certainly my favorite classic. I think everyone should read it and give it a chance because it is something special, especially when you're not forced to read it and you come to it voluntarily. So thanks again. Have a good one. Bye.
Said you took my leg, and for that you must die. I threw my spear and hit Moby in the eye. He charged the boat, it began to sink. I said, how about that? Hubris really stinks. I didn't think that it would end like this. Pride met fate, this captain got dissed. Let it be a lesson, revenge is never sweet. So I stomped my peg to the super grass beat.
That's it, thanks to Moby-Dick.